Good morning. Welcome to the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show, brought to you by Capital Mortgage Funding. I'm Harvey Freed. Right to the right of me, Becky Alley.
What is going on, Detroit? It's Woodward Dream Cruise weekend, and we are super pumped to be here.
We got lots of stuff going on here. Tons of fun stuff this weekend. And of course, we want to bring in our guest, Alexis Carrera from eXp Realty. Good morning, Alexis. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning, guys. Thank you.
New up-and-coming queen of eXp. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm hoping for it.
You've got a great background in so many different things. So we're going to share all that for 1 hour. Of course, the Hardcore Mortgage Show. We take your calls live in the studio, 248-539-9797. You can call us at Capital Mortgage Funding at 1-800-LOW-RATE, the best mortgage banker during the week. And a lot of fun vibes. Becky, I did it. Nancy and I went out. We did the Dream Cruise last night. Now, her office is right there on Woodward, just a little south of 15 Mile Road. And it was jamming already. And I'm hoping this rain's going to hold off here. Great vibes in Detroit. And we got the Lions game at 4 o'clock.
It's going to be an exciting day. And so I went to my father and my dad, they have like old cars and stuff. So, going to car shows, we love it. It's really cool. But when you do go to the Woodward Dream Cruise, it is a little bit of a death trap when you're finally like, okay, we're done with this. You're like literally a 3-hour ride home. But at least you can see like the cool cars. And I like the old like 1950s. That's kind of my vibe.
Yeah, I like all the crazy stuff. Yeah. Alexis, let's talk about some real estate here. A lot of people come here and they're like, hey, I like Detroit. The home of the motors, the Motor City rocks. We got the Dream Cruise. We got a whole bunch of cool things. The Lions, the Tigers, a lot of fun sports. Is it a buyer's market now? Because I'll tell you, a lot of people are coming to town. It's like when they go up north, they come back and they're saying, hey, Detroit's really cool. I might want to buy something here.
Is it a buyer's market? Right now, it's kind of a weird market that we're in. It's shifting a little bit. And in the state of Michigan, it shifts always at this time of year, right? Because people are starting to slow down a little bit. They're putting their kids back in school. So we always go through a little bit of a shift, just like we do in the spring. Mm-hmm. It starts to kind of swoop up a little bit and it gets a little bit crazier. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's a buyer's market. I think it's kind of a case-by-case basis. If you have a hot listing, if you have something that you really should sell right now, still do it. I mean, and rates just dropped, so Becky can maybe preface that a little bit too.
Yeah, it's definitely going to, we've been, talking about the interest rates. We can get into that, right? But the Fed, they're going to make their announcement September. There's a rumor that they're going to drop the Fed funds rate by 0.25%. So, typically, and what's cool about our show is like you can run back the receipts like Whitney Houston style and be like, oh, what are these people talking about? So we've been saying that end of this year, first quarter, that we're going to probably end up in the high fives. So I feel like when that happens, it's going to open up the floodgates for a lot of these people that gobbled up the 3% interest rates. They're going to feel a little bit more comfortable to unlock those golden, equity handcuffs that they have. And it should give us a little bit more inventory. But, until that happens, it is, it's definitely a seller's market on paper, but it is case by case, like you're talking about. And you're seeing more concessions, whereas like even 3 years ago, like you would have clinched your pearls if you saw a contract with concessions attached to it. Whereas like now it's like every transaction you look in, I have like one, there's 21,000 worth of seller concessions on there. Because
that's a lot. Because
the houses that are, the best, they're getting gobbled up. But the ones that have been sitting there for a little bit, there's some discrepancies on them. There's, like a little deferred maintenance. And, people are really capitalizing on it because the average buyer is more educated. Alexa, and they understand that.
I get that a lot too with some of the real estate agents I'm working with. They're like, Harvey, this one here has been on the market for 3 or 4 weeks. Those are the ones we're going after, especially in that 200 or let's say even starter home, 175 to even 300,000. That house that's been on the market for 3 weeks, maybe there's just something just a little off with it, but it works for another family.
Now, that's not always the case. It depends on, did something fall through? Did finance fall through with another offer? There's so many, there's so many scenarios. So don't always look at a property like something could be wrong with it. But
I agree with that.
Always ask. If there's interest and you're wanting to negotiate and you're that buyer, that's your route.
I told one of my buddies, Scotty, if you're listening, I know he's out running around. He's going to go to the house at 9:30 this morning. I told him I would drop a little bit that he's out there looking. I said, Scott, this house looks like it touches, it's definitely going to check all the boxes you're looking for. Put an escalation clause in there. Don't lose this house. Tell your agent, Kristen, who we know, I said, just tell her, to reach out to the other agent and say, whatever it's going to take to get this house, this could be the one. Is that something that we want to really do in today's market? I mean, I'll show them my hand. I want the house.
Well, again, it's a case-by-case basis. So if you're in a competitive offer situation, it's all about it's all about communication. So your buyer agent rep should always reach out to the seller agent rep and always have that conversation. If it's not a competitive offer situation, don't show them your hand.
Okay.
That's the name of the game.
I agree with that. I mean, I feel like right now, it is a pick up your freaking phone. We're a people-y business, right? It's, we had Christine she was Michigan assessor. She's great. She's really big on like people over profit, right?
Oh, yeah.
And part of that, though, is we are a people-y business. And when you are hiring a professional real estate agent, that is in your best interest to have them navigate that arena, because certain cities have private private city inspections. Other ones don't. Do you really want to even deal with that? And you leave a lot of money on the table when you're trying to kind of navigate that yourself, trying to save a dollar or two. And we can get into that other conversation in a bit, but it's important to have those right professionals that are going to have those conversations, that can pick up the phone, right? You have an amazing reputation on the streets. And so we're like, oh, and Alexis is on my, my PA, like, all right, we're good. If Harvey's on my pre-approval and be like, this is strong, let's go. And who you're working with matters. And we talk about that often, because there's a lot of low-level people out here, and they're going to get exposed. There's low-level loan officers, there's low-level real estate agents, and that's not me dogging anyone. It's just, certain things get exposed, and it's because maybe they don't know any better, maybe they weren't taught. But you can hear the difference with a professional. You see the difference and you feel the difference.
You do. And it's also really easy to get a real estate license, especially in the state of Michigan. So a lot of us as professionals, the ones that are the top producing agents of the top 1%, we talk about this all the time. And even our brokers talk about this all the time, where we're like, which we should crack down on this, because again, our industry hasn't been really restructured in years. So 30, 40 years ago, when people were, let's get a real estate license, it was much different than it is today. But the exam and the qualifications are very similar to what it is today that it was then.
I'm going to say the younger generation, too. When I first got in, it seems like everyone was really on the older side of things, and they were out of touch with all the different programs and how things work. And they would run away from FHA loans. We're like, what are you talking about? Or VA loans and stuff like that. This
just
younger
lack
generation.
of education.
Yeah, exactly. The younger generation's really got it nailed down. They're using the social media. They're really helping families. But you bring some additional skills, which not all agents have. And I think that's really important. I think if you are an agent out there, you have to sort of set yourself above the rest. And one of the things is your background. It's just like sometimes we just have a great background. You have a sort of an engineering background. You also have a background in landscaping and some hardscape stuff. So you know what the cost of these things are. When you go to a house, you can really educate your buyers.
So I wouldn't say I have an engineering background, but I have an engineering by blood.
Okay.
So
Right.
yeah,
It might
be
You're
your
like, I got a
blood.
spreadsheet
All right.
for the spreadsheet.
Okay.
Yes.
I got a
So,
spreadsheet for the spreadsheet.
genetically. So my father was the founder of Continental Structural Plastics, which is still one of the leading compression molding plastic companies of the automotive industry today. And he was a mechanical and electrical engineer. So I grew up with that as
You got some good genes?
Yeah, I have some my brain works a little bit differently than I feel like most. And anybody who has an electrical engineer or any engineer as a family member or father, it's just different. And my brain operates the same way, but I also grew up in that business background. So when it came to me, okay, now I'm getting out of my teenage phase, what do I want to do with my life? I knew that I wanted to follow in the similar footsteps because, again, that's genetic. It's in my blood. So I said, I want to do real estate. I kind of got bit by that bug because my family was building homes and doing that type of thing in northern Michigan for many years. So I loved that aspect of it. So that's the route that I decided to go, and I just put my own spin on it. That's really what I did.
I love that. So it's because it's never like reinventing the wheel. Like what I kind of think is like you take the things you like, you
personalization.
You leave the things that you don't, and then you make it your own. And when you're in the room with the top 1% people in the world, in some of these rooms, and you listen to them, like success leaves clues, right? And and it's not like, oh, work smarter, not harder. No, the people that are at the top, they're always working hard, right? But they're going that extra mile, and they're learning how to work their time in, right? Time is money, but money can't buy you time. And you have to kind of have that kind of mentality of my spreadsheet for the spreadsheet, what's on that spreadsheet, and how can I optimize my time for not only myself to grow, but also my clients when we're showing them 57 houses and they don't get frustrated in the middle of all that.
All right, we can take your calls here all morning long. 248-539-9797. Existing home sales, is the market shifting towards buyers? I asked the question. Existing home sales did fall in June a little bit, but the median sales price hit a record high. It also did that in May. National Association of Realtors said sales of previously owned single-family homes and townhouses and condos, they receded a little bit. So again, the price continues to go up. Let's talk about that inventory situation. Again, as the rates might trickle down, whether they're a little bit better in September, I need them to be a lot better in 2025, in the spring of 2025. And let's see what happens. People can maybe buy that house for 5 or 10% lower now and get a lower rate with the idea homes will appreciate next year. And is this what we're looking at? If the rates come down, these home prices are going to go up just because of lack of inventory out there. They can get more for it. So
I'll play the game, but I will play this lightly because trying to predict the real estate market is like trying to predict stocks. You just can't do it. So any agent out there, in my opinion, that says that they can predict what's going to happen next year, they're just they're throwing something at a wall
Right.
and hoping that it sticks. We just don't know. It's a case by case basis. It's a day by day basis. Really, it could change tomorrow depending on what's gonna happen. But in all reality, yes, if rates drop, I mean, we're going to see what happened in 2022, where buyers were just coming out of the woodwork. It was absolutely insane. I mean, showings looked like open houses. People were wrapped around the block trying to get into properties. It was absolutely it was insane. People were throwing cash at properties. I don't even know where people were coming up with.
That was, I mean, it was crazy.
It was
cash
crazy.
Everyone had the backup cash. I'm like, what?
Right,
I'm like,
exactly.
you got the birth lottery money?
I
What's
mean, where are
happening?
you pulling this out of your
Everyone had
couch? I don't even know where
Right.
people were coming up with this stuff.
Yeah.
People were doing sight unseen purchases. They were doing no inspections. And, you see that traditionally in a lot of competitive offer situations with people waiving inspections, but sight unseen on top of that is just absolutely crazy. So if that happens, buyers need to be prepared. And these are conversations that we have with our buyers all the time. Be prepared. If you're not willing to buy the property now because interest rates are too high, we tell people all the time, date the rate. Date the rate, buy the house.
And divorce rent.
And
That's what we're
divorce
talking
rent.
about. Divorce
Yes.
rent.
Because equity has so much value.
All right, we got tons to share with you all morning long. Homes are sitting on the market a little bit longer. I got tons to throw at Alexis here. Keep it here on 97.1 The Ticket. We'll take your calls, 248-539-9797. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. Again, we bring you 1 hour of mortgage and real estate talk. And Always happy to share it with you.
We are
some
always
cool
happy to
stuff.
share it with you. That is
You know
true.
what? We are brought to you by Capital Mortgage Funding, powered by CMG Home Loans, NMLS 1820 Equal Housing Lender. Special guest Alexis Carrera, of course, joins us, eXp Realty. And we take your calls here live in the studio, 248-539-9797. About 1 million people here in town. If you're just tuning in, this is the sports station. But we've been doing this mortgage real estate gig for about 24 years.
Is that crazy?
Yeah,
We're
a lot
24
of time.
and 24.
And it doesn't-
Yay.
hey, if you're in town from another state, this stuff works in any state. And Becky and I are licensed in multiple states. And of course, we're going to be able to do all 50 states coming up in another couple weeks or a couple months anyway.
24 years, and you guys both look like you're 24.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks. I'll
You're so
take that.
kind.
I'll take that. Alexis, thanks a lot. We're going to dive into a whole bunch of things here. You guys started the banter, so I'll let it continue. Today's the day.
Oh, yeah.
There's something
my gosh.
happening in real estate. If you guys haven't been here, the National Association of Realtors had this huge settlement, this big case that came against the Department of Justice. Anyways, at the end of the day, I don't know how much we want to share about it, but there's a lot of changes in the world. But one of the mistakes is, let's go there,
talk
Alexis.
about it.
Let's go. One of the mistakes is sellers are still paying commissions. They're paying it to the listing agent. They're willing to pay it to buyer's agents. At the end of the day, it's what you're going to net from the sale of the house. They want the maximum. Who doesn't want to sell whatever they own for the maximum amount of price? And in return, a lot of times they want to have a great buyer in there. So it's still a look at the contract. It's a win-win and negotiate a deal.
Yeah, so like I'm going to kick it over to Alexis here in a second, but even like I was on Yahoo driving or when I got, not driving, but when I got here, I was like reading an article that popped up about today's the day on Yahoo financing and yada, yada. And the whole article was about how now buyers are 100% responsible for their commissions and whatever they're going to pay their buyer's
Right.
agent. And that in essence was always the case. You know, it's never really, nothing's really changing as far as how things have been done. It was just how, you know, some agents were not really speaking about it in the high level way that they should have been. They weren't getting proper buyer representation contract signed. And that's really been the biggest change, you know, where a seller can always or can continue to be willing to compensate that buyer's agent because it's in their best interest, because you want to make sure you have a transaction that's going to close. And we're in a seller's market. That's true. But a seller is not looking to take less money for their house, regardless of what's happening, right? And if you're undercutting and not willing to pay your buyer's agent with, you know, representation, you're going to get some different lowball offers too. You know, it's kind of like having that high level conversation when you're going into like on a listing, for example.
Correct. Yeah. So it works like this. I mean, like you just said, Becky, for years and years and years, we've been operating this very similarly, and really not a lot has changed. And it shouldn't change so much. But buyer agents, if you have not been getting the proper buyer agent agreement signed, it's going to look much different
Right.
to you than most agents. And it's going to be scary. And a lot of agents are freaking out there, and they're thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to feed my family?
Right. Realtors
Because they've
is-
been riding that whole thing
Right.
of like, you don't have to pay for me. The seller pays for me. And that was not correct from day one.
Commissions have always been negotiable from day one. And again, if you've been signing the right contracts from day one, that's what it looked like from day one. There should always be a commission agreement that if the seller is not willing to make up your compensation
And if you haven't been
negotiations,
doing it, of course, you
then
must
buyer
have
makes
an
it up.
established written agreement outlining the compensation amount, its determination process, and its origin.
Correct.
Other things going on with this is basically like the sellers want great buyers. And there's other reasons they want top dollar for your house. But a lot of times there is that sort of the emotional thing where I've lived here and raised my kids, and oh my God, this family walked in and they write the letter and they say, I have 2 kids. We love you. Done such a beautiful job with the
well,
house.
that's where we come in. That's where agents really come into play is we take that emotion out because residential real estate, commercial is not so much the same, and we're only talking about residential real estate
yeah,
here.
commercial's a whole different
It's a
animal.
whole different ball
It's a-
game. And this also, by the way, does not apply to commercial. This is only residential. But residential real estate is very emotional more times than not. And that's what we come in to do is remove that emotion and get down to business.
Yeah. I mean, and even to the point of like this buyer agency agreement that you said, if some agents have always had a buyer's agent agreement signed with their clientele, and then other ones haven't because they weren't.
Well, you have to have one, but there's different types of
Yeah,
them.
right, yes,
Yeah, short
yeah.
form, long form.
Yes.
There's different ones. Yeah.
The things right now they're like getting a little bit more regulated, but at the same time though, like that also prevented, you know, it secures you with a buyer where they're not just like calling this person and that person and this person over and over and over again, just looking for someone to tell them what they want to hear. I don't want to bother you, Alexis. So it's like Saturday. No, bother me. This is what I'm here for, because that's when you get a stranger on the phone.
Correct.
You get someone that's inexperienced and not going to handhold. They're not going to facilitate and consult you with what you need to do on this particular house. You know, anyone can open a door, right? And that's not the high level service that you're providing. And that's why when we say who you work matters, like this is where that's why Alexis is in the room with us right now, because it's high level experiences that you're going to have. And that's why your offer will get accepted, over somebody else's. It's who's on that piece of paper matters.
Right.
Nothing is one size fits all anymore. That's the one thing for sure. Mortgages aren't never been that way. Different strokes for different folks. We offer all the different options. And really our key is with mortgages is to sort of share. It's not like there's 5 programs for somebody. Although there's usually 1 or 2. And they could either go FHA or they can go conventional. Or again, if the place is in the outskirts of land, maybe they can go USDA. You must work, and you threw it out there, Becky, you must work with people that are pretty astute in these programs, setting you up for success. And a lot of times, and that's one of the things, a lot of VA clients will call me and say, Harvey, I want to refinance my VA loan. I got it at a higher time when the rates were at 6 or 7. A lot of times we won't go back to a VA loan. We'll do a conventional mortgage because of the VA funding fee second time around. So really working with the great people in town or across the United States, that's the key. Find out how long they've been at it. Find out what their experiences are and what their background is. It's going to help you when you become a homeowner. Homeownership
Everyone's
is really
situation
fun.
is completely different, though. Like,
Right on.
it might make sense. Like, I'm doing a VA to VA refinance right now because
you do have one.
because he's disabled, so the funding fee's exempt,
there you
right? So
go.
it is case by case basis. Just
Right.
like Alexis was saying, you can't put someone in this cookie cutter.
Doesn't exist.
It doesn't
A
exist,
box
right?
does not exist in real estate.
No, it doesn't, because everyone's situation is different. My mortgage and my financial status is different than yours and everyone else that's in this room. And you have to treat it as such. And the fact that we have the ability to have access to, we have so many programs out here that it would literally melt someone's face off if I literally rattled them off. But what my job is to do is to get your information, scrape what we have, identify the top 3, and then have an open conversation with you. I'm the backseat driver that's going to talk. You can decide if we turn right or left and be like, oh, it's going to be a little bit bumpy over here if we go this way. But ultimately, it's my job to advise you on what is best for you, whether it's a sale or if it's a refinance. And people have been refinancing even before refinancing is even cool, right? I've never stopped refinancing any of my clients because it's case by case basis and what makes sense for them. And we were talking about in the break, like in 2020, people overbought. It is what it is. You paid, you wanted to win. So you paid $100,000, over asking, but that was a gamble and it worked because you were in an appreciating market. So now someone that bought in 2020, they're in a good situation, but now they're romanticizing their low interest rate and they can't afford their life because taxes uncapped. They were $300,000 buyers. They bought a $500,000 house and now they're living on their credit cards and they are praying for the Fed to reduce those rates on those credit cards.
And the way that I look at that situation is you either wait for a few years and wait for your equity to build and use that, or you have to downsize mentally, right? You have to decrease your lifestyle.
Yeah.
If you have to move. Those
Well,
are
that's
the
the
options.
thing. Okay, but that's why home ownership is always, it's going to be the American dream no matter what. And if you're so inclined and you're at that point in your life and you're ready to dip your toe in it or you're a repeat buyer, your home is an asset not to use as a piggy bank, but you can leverage yourself. If you're even trying to buy another house, I have clients that are, they live in California. People want to be a part of Detroit. Detroit never left.
Oh,
Okay.
it's booming.
No,
Yeah.
Detroit
Detroit's-
never left, but
yeah.
people now
This is
it's
the
getting
place.
attention. But because we're affordable, so people from the outside come in,
No doubt.
and they're taking equity out of their homes to buy cash, and that's where some of this cash is coming from. Is you have your outside investors taking money from their homes in California and Georgia and Texas, and they're buying these homes in Detroit because they want a piece of this pie.
All right, all you haters out there, I haven't heard from the doomsdayers in a long time. I just by accident pulled out a March 9th, 2024 radio show that we did. And I wrote on
Archives.
here, what happened to all the doomsdayers? That the housing market's going to collapse. I don't know where they went, folks, but if you've got some cans of tomato soup in your dungeon down there, definitely might be looking. God forbid there is some crazy event in the world out definitely.
Yeah. There definitely are people with building their bunkers as we speak.
They've got
yes.
a bunker out there for sure. Hey, we'll help you with that man cave or that she shed. Give us a call here on the radio, 248 539-9797. We got tons of fun stuff here on 97.1. After us at 10 o'clock, Stoney and the Gator, they're over at Nikki D's on Woodward, broadcasting live. And then, of course, the Lions pregame is going to start at 3 o'clock.
Lions coming
4
back.
o'clock
Super
game.
Bowl. I feel it in my loins.
It's going to be a lot of fun here. Dan Miller, Lomas Brown, TJ Lang a little bit later this afternoon. Right. Sports station, but we do the mortgages and real estate. That way you can sit at home with the clicker and watch all your different sports. So definitely want to hear from you. And other things going on out there, I want to throw out there, Becky, different reasons why someone would put their house on the market. We talked about lower interest rates and then the D's. You get some divorce out there. You get some death out there. There are reasons why a lot of families now with the lower interest rates might start. And again, we're aging. We have an aging population. Maybe some folks are looking at putting grandma's house on the market. I'm getting more and more of those calls. So just talk about inventory here a little bit and maybe that inventory perking up a little.
I think some of the inventory though it's false, right? Because you have like they're aging in place, and then there's house swapping, right? Grandma's house is on the market. They're now I'm going to sell it to my grandson. So there's a lot of false inventory out there that makes it look like we have more than what we do. But again, you can't be like, oh my God, why would you sell in this market? And then you have people that timed it wrong. I have somewhere they sold their home in 22, and they're still trying to find that house, and they've been living in someone's basement for some time because they misjudged the market. So they like bought high, and they thought, okay, well, I'm going to wait. I'm going to sell high, but I'm going to buy low. And you can't. It's like timing like timing the stock market. You just can't. You can't predict it.
But at the end of the day, there's never a bad time to buy.
No.
It's so much better than renting. Mm-hmm. Get in, build the equity. That's what's invaluable.
I wrote this down, so we'll just continue that NAR conversation a little bit. Having the seller pay the commission, which has always been the case and still should be the case, included in the home price, enabled the buyer really to spread that cost over like the lifetime of their mortgage or their purchase. So that's really the only thing that changed a little bit.
That's where it gets sticky. The only thing that really changed a little bit is because now with the recent NAR lawsuit, it's bringing it all to light. So it's actually, that's really what's going on. It's bringing it all to light. It's shedding a light for sellers an opportunity to now say, I don't have to pay buyer agent compensation. And now it's making it difficult for buyers because in that case, they fall in love with the property. They absolutely love it, but they're already putting 20% down, 10% down on a loan on a $400,000 property. Then they have to make up buyer agent compensation on top of it.
That makes it difficult.
That makes it very difficult for these buyers. And that's what these sellers have to understand.
Well, the buyers, especially the first time home buyers, they're going to really get put through the ringer. So when we come back, I want to make sure we stay on this topic because it's all about that creative lending and having these uncomfortable conversations that people try to avoid. You got to just enter the room, your shoulders back, guide people, and we're going to help you through this. It's not scary.
Alrighty, 248-539-9797. Keep it here. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Hardcore Mortgage Show. Alexis Carrera joins us here this morning from eXp Realty. We'll take all your calls at 248-539-9797. I'm Harvey Freed. She's Becky Alley. And we do have some calls coming in. Let's get to those right away. We got Dan calling in from Brighton. Good morning, Dan, and welcome to the show.
Good morning. How are you today?
Very good. Thanks for calling in. What do you got going?
Well, I listened to your show quite a bit, and I just heard somebody say, and I'm not sure who it was, about VA origination fees being waived for a disabled veteran. I just want to know if they could elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, so that's going to be on your certificate of eligibility. It'll say that you're exempt. So if you're disabled, the chances are that you would be exempt from that funding fee. So if it's like a first time, it's like 2.15. If you use it again, it's 3.30. That gets rolled in. But if you're exempt, that's something that would not be a part of the transaction. So that's something that we could very easily pull up. You just need your DD-214, and we could look at that. Are you currently on a VA loan right now?
No, I've used a VA loan way back when, and went from VA to conventional for many, many years. And as I watch the market now and see how rates are being offered, I thought it occurred to me that the VA rates are still a little bit low, or lower. And so I'm a 100% disabled veteran. I am in the market for a new home. Had some circumstances that I can't really go into detail about why I am. I kind of joke and say I'm a homeless veteran at the moment. But the reality is I am looking for a home with a mortgage. And I heard somebody mention about the origination fees being waived for disabled veterans. And I'm 100% disabled. And as we know, origination fees can be somewhat expensive. And that's why I called, just to get a little elaboration on it.
Well, I like that. Actually, the
it's a funding fee,
the VA funding fee, right? 2.15% if you're a first time. And then as you mentioned, Becky did 3.3 added funding fee, but if you're disabled, there's an opportunity where they waive the funding fee. And a lot of the cities actually, thanks for the call, Dan. And more importantly,
so thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. And we will call you after the show to, obviously it's, private conversation. We'll look and see what your situation is. We'll get you hooked up with Alexis because I'm, curious what areas you're looking in and however we can help facilitate, right? Because I feel like there was, our veterans, like there's a moment in time where people are like shying away from VA loans. And I feel like, if you were shying away from a VA loan, you were an uneducated like listing agent in some of these cases. And, I feel like they need to be at the top of the list a lot of times because they've been through enough and, we got to make sure we take care of them. So
and
thank
Alexis, you're an expert in Brighton and maybe can even help and give them some great information. So you can sell us the current house and give it into a better situation. That's what we do here on the show at 248-539-9797. We thank all your calls for coming in. I'm not really fond of the text as much. Again, we're a live radio show, but if you want to say something nice, we'll definitely reach out to you and try to reach out to one of these texters who's talking about, is now the time, Becky, on the mortgage refis. The Fed hasn't even dropped anything quite yet. I'm starting to prepare clients. So I'm reaching out to my clients. And again, if you already have relationships, don't deal with strangers, especially in today's marketplace. Your information will be stolen. You're working with people working out of their basements. Be very careful. And that's key, Becky, in today's market.
Handshake mortgage.
Work with the people that you worked with before. And if you want to call us, we'll just bounce it off of us. Again, we don't, we really go after people. We try to help them out. But if they already have outstanding relationships, we pride ourselves in telling people to stick with those.
There's power in the word no, right? So if I'm looking at someone's situation, it doesn't make sense, I'm going to tell you no. Or if you're trying to do a cash out refinance and I can look that maybe if you focused on one or two credit cards, you don't have to tap into your equity, I'm going to educate you on that because I'm not here to sell anybody. We're here to help. This is where, that's why we've been in the business for as long as we have been. I'm 2 decades in and I don't need to do a transaction for everybody. It just makes sense for you and what you're trying to do. And a lot of calls that come in right now are the home equity lines, right? Oh, yeah. I had this 3% interest rate and I want to take a home equity line of credit. We can do those too, right? So there's nothing that we can't do other side of vacant loan, like vacant land and commercial. But if you're doing vacant land with new construction, we can do that, right? But everyone's situation is different. But what I'm getting to is, the home equity lines of credit because you want to stay on this 3% interest rate. Well, then once you factor in that 10% interest rate on that second, it doesn't make sense. You're better off to forego that lower interest rate on the first, keep it in, one loan in some of these situations. But if someone's at 8%, it would make sense considering, depending on what they're trying to do. I have a couple right now that we are refinancing from an 8% to the high sixes, and it's saving them $1,000 a month. Why would you not? And then guess what? If the rates drop in 6 months, you can now do it again and now shorten your term. So it's all about making lateral moves to do what you got to do and using that equity in the right ways.
A lot of families, a lot of families over my 30-year career have added their first and second mortgage, consolidated the two loans. Home equity loans can get you into trouble because they're open lines of credit. You're only paying the interest only on them. Families always look when there's a refi boom to add those two loans together. That's a cash out refinance typically, and then you can come back and lower it again and lower it again. All right.
But that's where you get in trouble though too. Is like the home equity lines got us in trouble the first time.
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah.
But the thing is that the mortgage industry, we've had multiple cleansings,
right?
And the mortgages that are out there are well qualified, highly underwritten. The average person has 40% equity in their home right now. That is a national stat. Now, if you just bought 5 minutes ago, then obviously you're looking at that 5% appreciation that we're probably tapping into. But it does make sense in certain situations, and then sometimes it doesn't. But you don't know until you have the conversation.
Let's talk about some cool stuff on housing. You go to the house, home inspection's done. It's a little wishy-washy. We've had a lot of rain this year too, so sometimes it's showing some evidence of water. Talk about a little bit of the negotiations. Like you talked about the emotional stuff, and you have this mellow. I love your personality. It's so mellow and easy to work with. So what happens? I mean, this
Not
gets a
always.
little.
I was going to say, don't let it pull you over there.
It's like a shark or something. But what happens? You do the home inspection, something really pops up, or something's a big question mark. Just tell me how we handle it in today's marketplace.
It depends on the situation. More times than not, I feel like sellers know. They're the ones who live there.
That, yeah.
Mm-hmm. They know what's going on in their homes, unless it's a investor opportunity, and sellers' disclosures are completely crossed out. But again, investor opportunities, they just remodeled the entire home. They know. Everybody knows what's going on. So I always tell my buyers, let's go in strong with an offer. And the stronger we go in with our offer, the least likely we are to have to waive inspections. And if we're least likely to waive inspections, that means we can have a standard inspection. And that's when we knock them down at the knees.
Yeah.
They know. That's true.
Yeah.
They know. You know what's wrong with your house.
You know.
Don't
You
lie.
know. You know.
Yeah,
You know.
I hope the lady's not listening. Nice listing agent, no names dropped here, of course. In one of my transactions, we heard that there was a problem with the septic field. So I reached out to them. I'm like, well, can we get a copy of that? It was like 2 weeks ago. You had a septic test done on the house. No one wants to provide that, and so we did one yesterday, and sure enough, it came back okay. It's an older system, but the septic inspection came back pretty good. Older system, but it was done, engineered properly. Everything's working out for it. He's going to move forward with the transaction, it sounds like. So again, people know, I like that. Sellers know what's wrong with their homes.
Know, yeah.
They act like they don't they?
The only thing
you don't want to waive that private home inspection because of that.
Correct. Now, in some cases, you have to, but it depends on. That's a conversation you have to have with your buyer. Again, it's a case-by-case basis. It's always a case-by-case basis.
Well, if someone's trying to get in the house with sunshine and rainbows and they're a little bit strapped on cash, then, once they drive that car off the lot, they might not be able to handle that $20,000 renovation. But
correct.
Some buyers be like, I don't care. I'm good. So.
I'm talking about my buddy Scott, because I know he's out there aggressive on a house this morning. Hey, Scott, if you're still listening, yeah, he's going to go after the house. He wants it.
Okay.
But I told him, go to the house today and act like you're the inspector. Again, your first time you're seeing it, just in case we're in a bidding war and we have to waive something and do a pass-fail inspection, bring a short ladder. I don't care. Go with your eyes wide open and go over everything. And I said, take pictures of the furnace and see the edge of the furnace and look at it and the evidence of water in the basement and things like that. So again, you're your own advocate. When you go to the house, if you have a great real estate agent and they're already educating you on things to look for, you're already way ahead of the game from the other people that are walking around like it's, the night of the living dead sometimes. Yeah. You're walking in there and you don't know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Go in there with your eyes wide open.
Use your nose, use your eyes. I tell people that all the time. Use your nose, use your eyes. And if there's things plugged in, Febreze plugins, it's just windows left open in bathrooms. It's all flags. It's all things I'm like, okay, why is there aluminum? It's like just things that you want to definitely watch out for. And sometimes it's an accident, but it's just things that you want to definitely little tiny.
If they baked 3 dozen cookies or something, they might be trying to cover up something. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Right. Other people can smell it too. Even my girlfriend on occasion, she'll say, God, Harvey, do you smell like mold? We got to check the look in the crawl space. Is there evidence of water anywhere? Right. I love that. Use your senses, use your brain, and be smart. Again, if you have an agent that's sort of helping you and prepare you for that, you're really getting ahead of the game.
Yeah. I mean, and, obviously if things pop up, not everything's a deal killer.
Correct.
Let's go there.
If you're with a home inspector, they'll call in a lot of times and kind of shed some light on it. But, they're not there to be like scaring you, but if it's something with the furnace, it doesn't necessarily have to kill the deal, because if you are already going into it, you can then renegotiate on certain things, and bring that to the seller's attention.
Yeah, I had a client yesterday, actually. He sent me a message after our inspection, and he said, some of the siding is a little bit worn, and some of and there's a couple of bricks that are loose, and there's this and that. But we also negotiated this offer. I mean, they've lowered the purchase price or the list price already by $30,000, and then we negotiated even further down. So at that point, I'm like, hey, buyer, I understand, but these are very small things.
You can tuck point some brick in, do some brick and mortar. This is very
easy to take care of later. Yeah. I mean, we just got a hell of a deal.
That's where your education comes in.
I've seen Alexis in action. I mean, she knows how to reel and deal, and she's going to get, that's why you want to hire a professional, so you're not out here just leaving money on the table for yourself.
All right, 248-539-9797. Come on, join us. It's the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. We'll be back. All righty, welcome back to the show, 9:45 out there. What a day. We got the Dream Cruise happening. We got Lions football. They're taking on, it's preseason stuff, but they're still taking on Kansas City.
Exciting times in Detroit.
Definitely. Game starts at 4 o'clock. We'll have the pregame here at 3. This is the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. Again, brought to you by Capital Mortgage Funding. You can reach us at 1-800-LOW-RATE, the best mortgage banker. We're getting tuned up for the refi boom if it happens. Again, Fed's talking about it. There's an election coming up in November. Lots of different things going on. Becky, lots of dynamics across the geopolitical events that could change the whole landscape of this conversation about lower interest rates, And when they're lower, you can refinance, but get in there, buy your house now. And Beck, let's just talk about a little first-time home buyer stuff, and then we'll bring Alexa into the conversation too, because a lot of first-time home buyers, they need money. They need money in today's marketplace. So let's just talk about a couple of the programs that would help.
Well, I mean, the reality is that affordability, because of we're in an appreciating market, has really put a strain on some buyers. And that's why, like, in this moment, in this market, there's more programs available for people to get incentives to help buy the homes, whether they're first time buyer or not. You can, there's some that are specific where there's income limits depending on what cities. There's ones that you can make $1 million. And if your highest purchase price is going to be the FHA loan limit, and you can get a 5% second towards your down payment and closing costs. So it's all about that conversation, but every way that we can make it so you can be a primary home buyer, right? Because the reality is that they would prefer people live and occupy these homes than have the investors come in from the outside. And then now they're dominating the market like they did in 2008, right? And millionaires are made in the down market. And there are a lot of people came and gobbled up properties in 2008. And because of all that, I feel like the programs for the first time buyers or even the repeat buyers, but as long as you're occupying the home, they're here and they're prevalent. So you have to give us a call. We will have a program that will fit your needs, but you don't know unless you call. And I feel like the biggest, the three biggest home buyer mistakes, or even your first time or not, is not keeping enough money in the bank. You're switching your jobs a lot, but the biggest one is people just don't even try. They just don't even try because they feel like they're disqualified in their own minds. In reality, they're not.
Let's talk about a listing here a little bit. I reached out to you. I said, hey, what do you got going on in your market? We'll talk about a couple of your listings. You have offers on it. If they're already existing offers, you don't have to get into specifics. But like, how close was the offer in the negotiations where you listed the price to where it was sold for?
Oh, none of them were close to the list price.
Talk to me on that. Talk to me.
One of them, my most proud, just closed on, what was that? On Friday. So multiple offer situation. It was a South Line listing, and if my client is listening, I'm sure she's not, but she was so happy. She was through the roof, and pun intended on this one. She was absolutely thrilled. So multiple offer situation. At the end of it, we ended up going $30,000 over, but waive inspections and also waived buyer agent compensation, which was absolutely fantastic. And this was before all of the NAR stuff actually, of course, was finalized as of today.
And my favorite question is, where are all these sellers moving to? Because again, there's a dynamic out there. It's like, hey, what were her reasons or that person's reasons, without being specific, with that individual's name? Why were they selling, and where'd they go to? What was the situation?
Situation with them were parents were elderly, and they were trying to consolidate family and household. So they did that. They actually 3 transactions with me. So they moved to Milford.
Great. Again, I don't want to keep bringing my buddy up. Sure enough, I got the text in here, and I'm trying to do a radio show, and I got the text. They already accepted an offer. They canceled his 9:30 appointment.
Oh, no. See, so that makes me so mad. Well, that just made me so mad.
I'm trying to figure it out. I'm talking to him about escalation clauses.
Oh, that just made me so mad. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times this happens to us as buyer agents, you guys. And if you're an agent and you're listening to this, you know what this is like. It's so frustrating. In my opinion, this is a terrible listing agent. I'm so sorry.
Yes,
this is actually going to be maybe controversial.
Whatever.
You're a bad agent because you have no idea what that buyer was willing to bring.
You have no clue. In his ear. I mean, I don't know. I've been doing this for 34 years, 24 years here on the radio. I've been giving some good advice. I've only bought and sold about 5 houses personally. So with that in mind, I'm telling my buddy last night, hey, you're going to overbid. You're going to be forced to pay a little bit more. You're going to do an escalation clause. You're getting this house because you're willing to pay more than anyone else. And they took an offer before letting my friend in there. Are you insane? What's going on?
On a Saturday? And that's fine. But communicate. Let the other people in there at least honor the showings that you have through the weekend. And if there's a really great offer and it's that great, listing agents, learn how to drag your feet.
What would the motivate? Exactly.
Learn how to drag your feet.
Well, I love it because the other one I was complaining about, the lady, right? She didn't get back to us right away. Meanwhile, she accepted the offer on a Monday or a Tuesday. Here, someone just probably cut off some money out of the transaction for their sellers.
No, you're right? I mean, you don't know what that person, like, if you're going to put me next to you and I'm going to win, I'm going to beat you. Right. And you don't know who that person was coming. They could have had unlimited funds, and they're ready to just blow the roof off that. And
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It's a shame. I mean, because it is competitive, but when you that's not properly advocating for your clients.
No, it's not. And I've actually was in a multiple offer situation where a listing agent accepted an appraisal waiver over my client's $50,000 appraisal guarantee, and guess what happened at the end of it? The appraisal waiver fell through.
So
they ended up, and I told her, if anything happens, call me. because my buyer is still absolutely interested. And at the end of it, she didn't call me. And my buyer, of course, was keeping an eye on this property. They closed the deal, but they closed the transaction $30,000 less than what my buyer would have closed at.
Yeah, right.
So that agent just lost their seller so much money.
And it just matched your, again, we don't want our buyers to overpay, but a lot of times it just matches what they're looking for. Check so many boxes, and they feel like the appreciation's there. Again, let's not talk about $350,000 house. If it goes up 10%, you're at $35,000. Cut it in half. Cut it in half if the market only goes up 5%. If you're there for 3 or 4 years, you got 10% equity, maybe 5%, maybe a year where there's only 2% equity. If homes continue to rise like that, you can buy that house, pay a little bit more, knowing that the rates will come down a little bit, and you're going to stay there for a while. If you're looking for a flip back, you can't overpay because, if you don't hang on to the property for 2 or 3 years, you're just not going to build enough equity.
Well, I mean, the whole investor conversations, that's a whole other animal, right? Because you're trying to cash flow that property, and you have to take into account what the taxes are going to be when they uncap, so that's different. You have to really be strategic if you're trying to build your real estate portfolio and, let's just say get 5 properties in, 2 years or whatever, that's your goal. You have to make sure that you're cash flowing, because that's a totally different thing. And we actually have a really cool program for specifically our investors and second home buyers where we waive the loan level price adjustment. So your interest rate is that of a primary, like how it used to be, and that's an exclusive program to us that we offer because we do have, because we're a national lender and we're able to kind of tap into that. But it's all about looking forward, right? Where are you at 5 years? It's not just what you're doing in 5 minutes. It's raising your face, looking down the road and be like, what is my client going to be doing? So if you are locking in the price of the home now, do it, because the interest rate is arbitrary. You can slide down when that opportunity comes. I bought a house in 2018 and I refinanced 3 times in there because of the interest rate. I slid down and now I'm on a shorter term. My payment's $100 less than what I originally started at because I was strategic in my move. So we know what we're doing. We know how to move in the rooms, but everyone's situation is different. But because we have that knowledge, we're going to help you with that. And even with your credit, if you're a first time home buyer and you think your credit's not there, cool, fine. But have the conversation. Don't be ashamed of something that you didn't know any better when you were 18. And now here you are 30 and you didn't know how to fix it. Talk to us so we can help you, because if homeownership is in your horizon, we want to be a part of that.
Am I insulting some agents if I say your agent should be classy and smart? They should smell good, be dressed, be very great communication skills, have some marketing ability out there. And so am I being a jerk for saying that a lot of you agents out there are sort of grossing me out? And more importantly, you're grossing your buyers out because you're not representing them properly. Hey, I can be a little funny here, but yes, I look at a lot of agents. I'm like, you don't answer the phone. You got all this BS going on. I'm looking at your social media. You're killing me.
Not answering the phone is
not answering the phone is terrible. Or they answer the phone and they just go hello, and you're like, hi, is this Susie Q?
Susie.
What's going on?
Yeah, and you're like, and they're like, yeah.
It catches me off guard if someone just says, "Oh, I'm like, hello," and
and you're like, is this a professional agent? I just want to make
Carrera,
sure.
Talk about some fun stuff. Run up against the end of the show.
Well, I just actually wanted to jump off. I want to jump on whatever Becky was just talking about. So I agree, and I think that one of the things, especially with this NAR lawsuit, you guys as buyer agents, it's one thing I just want to say is it's so important right now to set yourself apart. And I've been advertising myself as a real estate advisor and strategist for over 1.5 years, 2 years now. And I'm glad that I did. But what you just said is you were talking about strategy with investors, but it's strategy in all portions, but especially with investors, especially when they're trying to buy multiple properties. And when it comes to the agent perspective on that, we need to also look at data. You need to look at the projection of the areas that they're buying in and what's their are they short term? Are they long term buyer? Are they flip? Are they hold? What are they getting involved in here? And that's where most agents fail, is they don't communicate with their lender as much as they should.
Yeah.
How many times have I, as a listing agent, had the conversation with a buyer agent as, have you spoken to your lender? And they're like, oh yeah, well, I'm sure they're just doing their thing. How well do you know the lender? There's not a lot of communication. Even agents in my network that I talk to, they don't have a really strong relationship and communication with the lender on the other side, and that is crucial.
And those are folks that didn't get a professional lender involved. They click buttons, they got referred, or they're not even referred.
Agent. Yeah.
A lot of times they're not even referred. They're just clicking buttons. Oh, I got some company here. They don't even know. The most important thing is having, I think, in my opinion, sort of a local agent who's representing you. Now, I do loans in Florida. I only go down there a couple times, but I know the terrain. I know what's going on down there. So again, you got to have this background and stuff. And there's nothing wrong with when you're interviewing for the best agent out there, you can ask some tougher questions.
For sure. I mean, like we talked about, when if someone's talking to me and someone's talking to somebody else, you're going to hear the difference. You're going to see the difference. You're going to feel the difference. Just like if they stack you next to somebody else, they're going to see the difference, feel the difference, know the difference, right? It's a different experience that you're going to get when you're with a high level loan officer or a high level real estate agent that can have the tough conversations, but they don't have to be uncomfortable, right? They're just tough. And because if you don't ask, you don't get. And in this market, it's imperative that you align yourself with the real professionals, the ones that are not doing it part-time. And nothing against anyone that's doing it part-time, but people got into the business thinking it was easy, and this is not easy.
And it's also easy to get into.
Yes.
I'm going to respond to this text real quick. Devil's advocate, and I'll take the text here to your argument about not accepting an offer where they're still showing schedules. What if for some reason you don't accept that offer and then you don't get one? Look, if you get an offer on a Saturday and they sound like they're gung-ho and you're considering just taking that without allowing more offers to come in to put more money in your pocket to help you net more money, I think at the end of the day, you wait till Sunday, at least at the end of the day, and you can call back people. If they
or
like
maybe
the
not
house,
even until Sunday, but do this. At least call the other showings and say, hey, can you squeeze? Can you bump up your showing? Because we just got a great offer and I still want to give you the opportunity. Or call and just say, hey, this is what we have. We have something along these lines because you may not be able to talk about it. Can you compete?
Right.
Have the conversation. Learn how to communicate. You have to communicate. Communicate.
Yes.
I love how we can end the show on that one. Yeah, that's the way to end the show here. Alexis, thank you for joining us as always from eXp Realty. Alexis Carrera. You've got to check her out. She's out of the Brighton area, but she does all of
Everywhere,
Michigan.
yep.
Born in Petoskey. I'm just putting my hand up. She does the whole state of Michigan. And when you need a professional agent, you can reach out to Becky Alley. She'll set you up with the whole terrain or a whole bunch of folks that know the terrain here all around Southeast Michigan. Anything else, Beck?
No, just have a great weekend. Enjoy, drive safe here at the Woodward Corridor, and go Lions.
All right, keep it here. We've got Stoney and Gator out there at Nikki D's on Woodward. Have a fun time at the Woodward Dream Cruise. The weather's going to hold out. Keep it here on 97.1 The Ticket. We'll see you next Saturday.